All right, welcome to another video. Today I want to read something out of Genesis chapter 22. And I really want to start in verse 9, but I think I'm going to bag up and start in verse 1 just to give a little backstory on this, what I'm talking about. So Genesis chapter 22, verse 1, it says, "Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, Now take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you." So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey, and took two of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which Yah had told him. Then on the third day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. The lad and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you." So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the two of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham and said, his father, and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." Then he said, "Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" Verse 8 says, "And Abraham said, My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering." So the two of them went together. Verse 9, this is where I wanted to start. "Then they came to the place of which Yah had told him, and Abraham built an altar there, and placed the wood in order. And he bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of Yah called to him from heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the lad, or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear Yah, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. All right, let's stop there. A couple things in this. Number one, I know that, when there's something that we love more than Yah, a lot of times Yah will tell us to give it up, to sacrifice it, to kill it, to stop doing it. And we have to decide what's more important. Is Yah's word, is his voice, is following his commands more important than whatever it is that, is holding you back from him? Yah will not allow you to love anything more than you love him. So if he sees you clinging to anything, he will test your heart, and he will tell you to give it up. I've seen this happen in my own life over and over again. Different things Yah knows I love. Food, okay, is one of them. Different sins. Let's be real. Sin is something that is very hard for some people to let go of. There's certain sins that are an addiction, okay? And it's hard to stop. But Yah says, do you love me more than you love this thing? If so, you'll stop doing it. You'll give it up, okay? Some years ago, I used to have a business, and it was a very popular business at a mall. And just before I came into this truth, I gave it up, but I told myself I was going to restart it again. And so I was going to move it and start it in another location. And it would have did very well there because it was near a college campus. It was actually at a college campus. So it would have done extremely well there. But when I came into this truth, Yah says, I need you to honor my Sabbaths. I need you to give up everything you want to do on Saturday. Well, for my particular business, Saturday is the biggest. It's the most popular day. It is the money-making day. Okay. when I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that anymore, it hurt me bad. Oh, goodness. I was hurt real bad. But then I said, okay, yeah, it's the hardest thing I'll ever give up. Nothing else will be this hard. The only other thing that was harder than that, and that was a decision I made at one time and never went back. So it was a decision that it was very hard for me to make the decision, but once I made the decision, it was very easy to let it go. Now there's other sins, that are hard because they cause an addiction. But Yah still says, hey, if you love me more than you love this, I will give you the grace to struggle with it for as long as you need to struggle with it. But you got to let it go. So we struggle with it until we finally let it go. And every time we get over something, he points something else out. And it's something you kept closer and closer to yourself. Maybe something you've never told anybody. Everybody knows I love food. I love a good burger. I love a good steak. Okay. I love a good, pasta too. But it's one of those things that I've had to slow down a lot on. Most days I don't even eat while I'm driving the truck, while I'm at work. I only eat one time a day most of the time. But anyway, there's things that Yah says, I need you to give this up. And Isaac, he tied Isaac up. After Abraham told him, in verse 8, he says, and Abraham said, my son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So the two of them went together. So I could imagine what was going through Isaac's mind when he was laid on the altar and he was tied up. I don't know if Abraham put him face down so he couldn't see what was about to happen. I don't know if he saw it and he was just like, oh God, it's going to hurt type thing. But I do know that Abraham had to follow the instruction until the instruction changed. Now let's fast forward to our Lord and Savior, to Yeshua. Our Yeshua, he was obedient up to and including the point of death. Isaac got redeemed. Yah redeemed Isaac. And in a way, he was showing his power to be able to redeem us and spare us what we deserved, okay? But Yeshua did not get spared. Abraham gave his only begotten son. Then Yah gave his only begotten son. There was no one to redeem Yeshua but Yah, no one greater. And he was not redeemed. And he was not redeemed for our sakes, because we had done such an horrible, awful thing. We turned from our God and we turned to gods of the Gentiles. We turned to gods of the Persians, everybody else's gods. So Yah made us serve each one of those people who we turned to their gods. And then Yeshua came to redeem us, because there was no other way we'll be redeemed. So in all of this, I want us to understand how it must have been for Isaac. We see the struggle that Yeshua went through on the Mount of Olives. We see how, he prayed multiple times that Yah would take the cup of suffering away from him. And it wasn't taken away. So I just want us to just be in remembrance of all of this, okay? As we go through this, the things that happened to Abraham and Moses, even things that happened to Jacob, they are symbolic of our walk and what Yah did for us to save us. Okay. But also I wanted to hint and say something about Baal, because Baal, worshiping Baal, they offered up their sons and their children, to sons and daughters, their children, to Baal as an offering. And Yah was like, that hadn't even came into my mind to do anything like that. This is where the Baal worshipers get that from, because they're trying to prove to their God that they love their God more than their children, more than anything else. Okay, and they believe that their God would make them more fruitful, that they would have more children if they sacrificed their first, that they would have better crops if they sacrificed their first child, their life will be better if they sacrificed their first child. But that's wrong, because Yah says, I never really intended to do this. I was never, his son had to go through it, but it was never meant for pagans or anybody to do such a thing, which is why Yah was like, I can't. If you worship any of these gods and you do any of these things, you got to die. We got to stomp this thing out. And I want you guys to understand, modern day Baal worship includes abortion. Okay? Offering your children. Usually it's the first child, because a mother is too young or thinks she's too young. Have a child at 12, 13, and they say, no, you're too young. Kill your firstborn child. You can have more children later. But now we realize, yeah, that's wrong. We can't do that. If my wife wouldn't kill me for doing it, I'd be like, look, anybody who got a child that don't want their baby, bring it to me. Because I would love to have a big family. But my wife would kill me, because people would start showing up with their kids, handing me kids. But I think it would be amazing. I think that type of life would be amazing. And, just talking for a second, you think about how the Hebrews did things back then. Yah told Abraham, any person that is bought with money, that is born in your house, the covenant is with them as well, And could you imagine if people just give you their children, like Abraham and Sarah, whenever they would go places, people just give them their kids. Kings would give their kids to them to be servants in their house, and they wandered from place to place in a tent while kings had a palace, and yet kings would give their children to them. If that kind of happened today, if people who didn't want their children, the firstborns, if they would give their firstborns to Hebrews to say, you take care of them, the kingdom of Yah would be just gigantic. There'll be so many people in it, just because, think about all the aborted babies if they were given to Hebrews, that'll be a lot of people in the kingdom. Because we're instructed to teach our families the ways of Yah. And that would be amazing. But anyway, I'm just talking. And thank y'all for watching my videos, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Have a great day.